The reflection system of the eye. When light passes from the air into your eye, the light is refracted, or bent. This banding begins at the cornea and continues through the rest of the eye, because these structures are denser than the air. In the normal eye, looking at distance images, the ciliary muscle is relaxed. The lens is flat and the light from that object is bent to focus clear image on the retina surface.
There are multiple types of refractive errors: hyperopia, myopia, astigmatism, and presbyopia. Hyperopia, which is farsighted vision, is characterized by light focusing behind the retina, and nearby objects cannot be focused. This is corrected via a convex lens. Myopia, or nearsighted vision, is characterized by light focusing in front of the retina. As a result, faraway objects cannot be focused, and this is corrected via a biconcave lens. Astigmatism is characterized by a curvature of the lens that is not uniform, and this is usually corrected using a cylindric lens. Presbyopia, which occurs with aging, is characterized by progressive stiffening of the lens, which causes the punctum proximum, the shortest point at which our eyes are still able to focus, to move farther and farther away from the eye, and this is corrected via a convex lens.
Accommodation is the process of keeping an object in focus on the retina as its distance from the eye varies. This is done by changing the refractive power of the eye. Since the refractive power of the cornea is constant, the structure responsible for changing refractive power is the lens. The lens is connected through the zonular fibers with the ciliary muscle. When focusing on objects that are far away, the ciliary muscles are relaxed, which causes the zonular fibers to be tensed. This leads to the lens being pulled into a flattened shape, allowing the focal point to be located on the retina. When the lens is flattened for distance vision, the focal point for those close objects falls behind the retina. This leads to close objects appearing blurry. In order to focus on objects close to the eye, the shape of the lens has to change. This is done by contraction of the ciliary muscle. This contraction leads to a decreased tension of the zonular fibers and therefore to a more rounded lens with higher curvature. The focal point is now focused on the retina and the close object appears sharp. When talking about accommodation, the punctum remotum and the punctum proximum are also important to mention. The punctum remotum is the closest point that can be seen sharply without the need of accommodation. Physiologically, this point is located approximately 5 to 6 meters in front of the eye. The punctum proximum is the closest observed point which can be seen sharply due to maximal accommodation. Accommodation allows for sharp visualization of all objects located between the punctum remotum and the punctum proximum.
Let's look closer to the structures of the retina. The retina is a thin layer of tissue that lines the back of the eye from the inside. Let's take a closer look to the cells of the retina. I will start to speak about the outermost layer, which is labeled on the picture as number 6. It is the retinal pigment epithelium, or short RPE. It is a layer of epithelial cells that lies beneath the photoreceptors. It forms a barrier to blood vessels in the choroid and mops up harmful substances that are shed by photoreceptors in response to light. On top of the epithelium, towards the center of the eyeball, lies the next layer, a layer of photosensitive cells called photoreceptors. We distinguish between two types of photosensitive cells: rods and cones. Rods enable vision in poor light, whereas cones are responsible for color vision. Photoreceptors convert light into electrical signals that travel through other retinal neurons to reach the optic nerve. The next layer of the retina is composed out of 3 different cells: bipolar cells, horizontal cells, and amacrine cells. I will start with bipolar cells, which are labeled as number 2. Those cells are responsible for transmitting signals from the photoreceptors to a retinal ganglion cell. Number 4 in the picture is a horizontal cell. It regulates the signal that emerges from several rods and cones. Number 5 is an amacrine cell. It reaches across several bipolar cells to regulate signals directed to retinal ganglion cells. So far, around 30 subtypes have been identified. The last layer of cells is composed of the retinal ganglion cells, labeled numbered 3. Those cells relay signals from bipolar and amacrine cells to the brain through long projections called axons that merge together to form the optic nerve.
Color vision is possible because of the existence of different types of cones that can distinguish either red, green, or blue color. All other colors can be perceived because they stimulate a different ratio of the different types of cones via a mechanism called additive mixing of colors.
Physiologically, our vision is trichromatic, which means that all 3 cone pigments are present and functional. However, there are multiple types of color vision disorders, which present as an inability to distinguish certain colors due to either an absence of or deficiency in the function of specific cone cell types. Dichromatic vision, for example, is complete deficiency in one cone pigment while the other 2 function normally. 3 subtypes of dichromatic vision are distinguished depending on which of the cone cells is deficient. In protanopia, the most common deficiency, people lack red-sensitive receptors, and they cannot distinguish red from green colors. Deuteranopes lack green receptors, and much like protanopes, cannot distinguish red from green colors. Tritonopes lack blue-sensitive receptors, and they cannot distinguish blue from yellow. Monochromatic vision is a deficiency in 2 of the 3 cone pigments, while only 1 cone pigment remains functional. This is most likely also accompanied by reduced visual acuity, photophobia, as well as a sluggish pupillary reflex. Achromatic vision is the most severe of the color vision disorders. No functioning cones remain. People affected by achromatic vision see black, white, and shades of gray, and have markedly reduced visual acuity as well as photophobia. Color vision defects are most commonly hereditary, but they can also be acquired as a consequence of disease.
Now we will look at the visual pathway. So here we see the eyeball, the optic nerve, the optic chiasm, lateral geniculate body, the optic tract, which is also known as the geniculocacrine tract, and the occipital lobe. Here are the visual fields. The blue nerve on the left side will pick up the left nasal field and will carry this visual information to the lateral geniculate body, where it will synapse with another nerve, which will carry the information to the occipital lobe. The blue nerve on the right eyeball will capture images from the right temporal field and will carry this information down the optic nerve and will cross over at the optic chiasm and synapse with the neurons of the left lateral geniculate body. The nerves will then carry the information to the occipital lobe. This orange optic nerve on the left eyeball will capture images from the left temporal visual field and cross over at the optic chiasm and synapse at the right lateral geniculate body, where it will relay the information to the optic tract, which then will bring it to the occipital lobe. The orange optic nerve of the right eye will capture the image from the right visual nasal field. It will not cross over, but relay the information to the lateral geniculate body. It will synapse with other nerves along the optic tract, down to the occipital lobe.
Central vision is the part of a person's vision that allows to focus on a central point, which can, for example, be a specific object, such as a book or someone's face. This object appears clearly and sharply because it is casted into the central fovea of the retina. The objects surrounding this central point are blurry. This is caused by peripheral vision, where the images are casted into the peripheral or extrafoveal areas of the retina. The visual field is the entire area that can be seen when the eyes are fixed on a certain object. It is composed of the object seen clearly in central vision, as well as the objects seen blurry in peripheral vision. The placement of the eyes in humans allow for binocular vision, which is the overlap of the visual fields of both eyes. Since the objects are seen from 2 different angles, 2 different images are transmitted to the visual cortex. Binocular vision is important for 3-dimensional vision as well as the perception of depth.
Scotomas are generally defined as an area in the visual field of reduced or completely diminished vision surrounded by an area of normal vision. There are multiple types: central, paracentral, and scintillating scotomas. Central scotomas are blind spots directly in the line of sight. These can result from macular degeneration and diabetic retinopathy or infections and injuries affecting the macula. Paracentral scotomas are blind spots within 10 degrees off-center of the line of sight. These can be caused by glaucoma and diabetic retinopathy. In the case of scotomas caused by glaucoma, They may be arc-shaped and are referred to as arcuate scotomas. They can also occur as single or multiple scotomas. Multiple scotomas can cause peripheral vision loss, resulting in tunnel vision. The last type of scotomas are scintillating scotomas, which are more visual disturbances than true blind spots. Scintillating means shimmering, and these scotomas are sometimes described as visual auras, dancing colors in front of the eyes. They can occur with migraine headaches, stress, hypertension, inflammation of the optic nerve, and other diseases, and are usually ring or arc-shaped.